And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our council meeting on April 27th. This is a virtual meeting.
May.
Did I? Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the, thanks, Joe. Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at the meeting to be approved, our May meeting, exactly right. And I missed a month. I don't know how I did that. Could you imagine that? Well, at any rate,
I've
it is
missed
May.
3 from COVID.
Exactly. And welcome to the council meeting, and again, May 26, 2020. I'm going to read this as I had done last week regarding public comment, that if public comment or questions on both agenda and non-agenda items can be mailed to the Bensalem Clerk of Council, and that's at Byberry Road, 2400, or tonight, they can be emailed to public comments at bensalempa.gov, and that's between 6 o'clock and the end of this meeting. I'm going to repeat that email, which is publiccomments@bensalempa.gov. Okay, I'd like to introduce you to our participating members on council and those who are going to be accent to the meeting. Again, I'm Councilman Ed Kisselback, President of Council. We have Joseph Polari. Joseph, Joe, if you'd be kind enough just to raise your hands. We see it. Okay, we have Joe Knowles, our secretary. We have Ed Tokmajian, a member. We have Jesse Sloan, also a member. We have the Honorable Mayor Joseph DiGirolamo. Okay, there he is. And then we have our solicitor, Joe Pizzo, our township engineer, Russ Benner. We have our, from the Building and Planning, we have Quentin Nairn. And we have Debbie McBreen, our council clerk. Also in the building tonight is our Kirk Stolzenberger, our IT guy, and Darren Miller, which is our production director. So that's how many people it takes to put this meeting together, to bring it to you live, and it will be repeated at the normal times throughout the week. Before we begin, I'd like to make one note that, as we all know, yesterday was Memorial Day. We didn't have the opportunity to participate in a commemorative ceremony honoring those who had given us our independence and freedom and had given their lives serving our country. So we'd like to honor them throughout this evening and dedicate this meeting to them. We'd also make a special note that our Gold Star families, if we can honor them also, that would be extremely gratifying for them and for us as well. Also, as you do know, in the month of May, we honor our police officers in a memorial, but we didn't have the opportunity to have that this year. And we have a special emphasis, as you know, for Officer Yezi and Officer Armstrong, who were Bensalem police officers who had given their life in the line of duty. So we'd like to also keep them in our memories. Later on at the end of the evening, I'm sure our other council members would like to make comments relative to the Memorial Day and honoring those who had given their lives for us. We'd like to begin the meeting with opening a moment of silent meditation or prayer, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So we can ask you to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The second agenda item is public comment. Of course, no one was in the audience this evening, and we're going to take public. Is there public comment, Joseph, that has been emailed in other than agenda items?
As of right now, Mr. Kisselback, we have one public comment that we have received. It is a non-agenda item, so that will wait until the end of the meeting.
Okay, and then we have, that's fine, and we'll close agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 3 is the approval of the council minutes, and that's for the meeting of, that's April 27th, 2020. If you've had the opportunity to review the minutes, gentlemen, if there's any changes or deletions, you can make them now. If not, I'd ask for a motion to be put in place.
I have one correction or clarification on page 5, agenda item number 7, the tail end of it. The motion to approve the reduction in fire inspection fees, in part that was based on an email that we received during the meeting from the fire marshal saying that it was okay to do a 100% waiver of the inspection fees for the Armstrong property. And the motion had been revised during the meeting to account for that, and I just wanted to reflect that in the minutes.
Okay, what paragraph is that? Is that section 9?
It would be section 7.
Section 7.
So that's page 4 then.
It runs at the top of page.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say, he's correct. The fire marshal did add to the email that it was okay to give them
Yep, that is correct.
Armstrong property, reference to Armstrong property.
Okay, we have that correction?
The only other thing is kind of similar to last time. The minutes reflect a clarification or a logistical question I posed last meeting. It ended saying that the township was good through the end of the month of April as far as extensions to land development applications and so forth. We're now at the end of May, and I was hoping that we could get an update on whether that has been extended even further.
I couldn't hear anything you said, or I couldn't understand it. Maybe you can speak a little slower, I think?
Sure. On page 2 of the council meeting, of the meeting minutes, item number 3, I had posed a logistical question regarding tabled items. At the end of that paragraph, it says the township is good through the end of the month of April. I'm posing the same question tonight, now that we are at the end of May. Do we need any further extensions on things that have previously been filed or things that we had previously tabled?
I'll pass that to Solicitor Pizzo.
I haven't specifically had that conversation with Director Farrell. I know that, as council was briefed during our phone call last week, the township is in the process of scheduling planning commission meetings for the month of June, a planning commission meeting for the month of June, and 2 zoning hearing board meetings for the month of June, so as to start to address those items that were tabled or put off during the first 3 months of the emergency. I would trust that the township department has been diligent in continuing to secure those necessary extensions of time, as it always does, from those developers from whom we need it. I will speak with Mr. Farrell in the morning just to double check, but that has been the ongoing process. They keep those flagged and they secure them as needed.
Okay, does that answer your question, Jesse?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that being said, there was one correction and one question on the minutes. I'd entertain a motion to accept with the correction, one correction.
I will make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as corrected.
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor, and who will second it?
I'll second it.
Councilman Turkmejian seconded the motion. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
And against? Any abstention? All right, unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 4. This is the consideration of the public hearing on an ordinance to approve the request of Round 1 Entertainment Incorporated. This is to transfer a liquor license number R17205. And this is repealing all inconsistent ordinances and establishing an effective date thereof. I'll start with Councilman, or I keep calling you Councilman, I don't know why. Solicitor Joe Pizzo, I'll start with him making a presentation, and we'll turn it over to Greg. Is it Zoller? Is that correct?
Zoller, that is correct.
All right, so we'll have Mr. Pizzo explain to us what's happening here, and then you can make your presentation. We pretty much know what's happening, so we're going to ask for the abbreviated, condensed presentation from you.
All right.
not the 50 pages that you sent us.
So before I turn it over to Mr. Zeller, as Councilman Kisselback stated, this is something that council has been asked to do routinely since the change in the liquor laws several years ago. This is a hearing for the potential intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license from a community within Bucks County but outside of Bensalem to a facility inside of Bensalem. In this case, the application is being made by Round One Entertainment. They are leasing the old Sears building in the Neshaminy Mall, or at least a significant portion of that building, as you'll hear during the presentation, and seeking to have the liquor license transferred contingent upon everything else happening that they need to be put in place for that business to start operation. I think you'll hear during the presentation that they're hopeful of being up and running at least before the pandemic, sometime in the spring of 2021. We may hear this evening as to whether that timetable still is in place. The attorney representing the applicant is Gregory Zeller. He is on the line, as well as three of his witnesses. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Zeller.
I'd like to thank council for having us this evening. My name is Greg Zoller. I'm with the law firm of Flaherty & O'Hara, and I represent Round One. With me this evening is Stephen Takuchi. He's the Construction and Compliance Senior Manager for Round One Entertainment. Mia Fleming, Business Development, and Jacob Schnell, the District Manager. And we're here tonight to request the intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license for use at Round One Entertainment's facility that will be located at the Neshaminy Mall. What I have marked as part of my presentation is as Exhibit A, which was our application that we submitted to the township with the various exhibits. And what I would also like to have marked and entered into evidence would be Exhibit B, which was a copy of the notification letters that were sent via regular and certified mail to each of the adjacent property owners, which I believe there were 8.
And I would point out for the record that those were previously provided to the township. We have had an opportunity to review them, and they do appear to be in order.
Thank you. In order for you to make a decision on our request, let me provide you with some background information on Round One. Round One Entertainment, Inc. is a California corporation, which is owned by Round One Corporation, a publicly traded Japanese corporation. Round One currently operates a total of 148 multi-entertainment facilities that provide food and alcoholic beverage service throughout Japan and the United States. 107 of those facilities are located in Japan, with 41 facilities being located in the U.S., located in 22 states. 3 of those U.S. locations are located in Pennsylvania. With the 2 additional ones planned, we have one planned for the Bensalem Township location and another one for the city of Lancaster. Round One's concept is a state-of-the-art, family-friendly, multi-entertainment facility offering hundreds of arcade games, bowling, ping pong, darts, and billiards. The main area of Round One will include the dining and seating area, which will have arcade games and the bowling center. Patrons will also have access to Round One's new concept, which is a sports challenge complex, to refer to as the SPOCHA area, which includes additional activities such as ping pong, billiards, inline skating, basketball courts, etc. In addition to the vast number of entertainment offerings, Round One has a food menu to please family members of any age, which typically include a variety of appetizers, wings, hot dogs, burgers, and pizza, to name just a few. As part of its overall business operating model, Round One would like to serve beer, wine, and liquor for on-premises consumption. Beer and wine will not be offered for off-premises karaoke rooms or inside the SPOCHA Center. I've attached to my presentation what I would like to have marked is Exhibit C, which are photographs of some of the exterior and interior areas of operating facilities that are located in both Japan and in the United States. I've also attached what I would like to have marked as Exhibit D and entered into evidence are copies of the floor plans showing the area that's to be licensed, which is in the first diagram on Exhibit D. Then there's the area showing where the entire layout of the store. And then we have a site plan, which the solicitor referred to earlier. If we have any questions regarding the setup or anything like that, I'll be more than happy to answer those after my presentation. Round One's hours of operation will be from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. They'll be open 7 days a week. All alcohol service will cease at 1:30 a.m. with all patrons out by 2 a.m. Food service will be provided until 1 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. Total investment in just the physical premises is approximately $6 million. This amount does not include the cost of acquiring the hundreds of arcade games that will be located throughout the facility. The approximate number of seats in the main dining bar area will be 113. There will be 17 six-person booths and 11 individual seats located at the bar counter area, with additional seating in the bowling alley. The square footage of the premises is slightly over 73,000 square feet. The number of employees initially to be employed by Round One at its Bensalem location will be approximately 60, with 10 full-time and 50 part-time employees, with the intent that all the employees will be hired locally. As I stated earlier, alcohol will merely be served as a complement to Round One's food and entertainment offerings and not as the main attraction. The addition of alcoholic beverage service makes for a consistent international and national product, as Round One provides alcohol beverage service at its other locations. Our designated manager, PLCB manager, will be ramp trained and ramp seller server trained, as well as all the other employees being seller server trained. Round One will become, as an establishment, ramp certified as well. An ID card scanning device will be used to detect fake IDs and to verify the ages of the patrons to prevent the sale of alcohol to minors. All patrons over the age of 21 will receive a yellow wristband to make sure that only those patrons over the age of 21 are able to have alcohol and to make it easily identifiable for the security and the employees that are working there. Individuals under the age of 21 will be permitted entry with a parent or guardian. Each parent or each guardian must be over the age of 25, and the limit of children per parent or guardian will be limited to 4. Patrons who are at least 18 years of age but less than 21 years of age will only be permitted entry with a parent or guardian after 10 o'clock p.m. And nobody under the age of 18 will be allowed on the premises for entry after 12 o'clock a.m. A copy of Round One's house rules is attached, and I've marked to have that marked as Exhibit E, and would like to introduce that into evidence as well. There will be approximately 60 to 70 closed-circuit TV security cameras located throughout the facility in order to enable Round One staff to monitor the entire premises, including the non-patron access areas. Security personnel will be provided by a third-party security provider. It's Round One's intent to hire the same security company that the Neshimony Mall has hired to make for better coordination between both security forces. 2 security guards will be utilized during non-peak hours, and 3 security guards will be used during peak hours. In addition, Round One employees themselves will be physically out monitoring the various areas of the facility. Round One is a responsible owner making a significant investment in the facility, and there will be protected by responsible management and well-trained employees. And for these reasons, we would request that you issue a resolution approving the intermunicipal transfer of a restaurant liquor license into Bensalem Township for use by Round One Entertainment, Inc. for its new restaurant at Neshimony Mall. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
All right, gentlemen, if you have questions, now's your time.
All right, I was going to start, President, if you don't mind.
To Comedian, Councilman, please do.
Mr. Zeller.
Yes.
On the application, I noticed there was a prior violation ramp training, how can you assure us if we were to grant this license transfer that you will remain up to code as far as the training is required for the sale and distribution of alcohol?
Well, the ramp training is something we're doing internally to make sure that we have the ramp training. We can provide you with a copy of the certificates. It's our intent, once we hire the employee staff and we obtain PLCB prior approval before the facility's been built, to get those employees ramp certified beforehand.
Okay, so is
And
it so is it your intent, or are you going to ensure that they're certified prior to opening?
That's what our intent is, to get them certified prior to opening. We have to have at least 50% of our employees ramp certified. It will depend on how we hire the employees when they're all getting hired. If we have everybody hired ahead of time and they can go ahead and take the ramp training in that, we would be able to have it ramp certified. The PLCB won't do it prior to getting our final inspection. But it is our intent that when we open up, that we would be ramp certified. We would have the proper postage, or not the proper postage, but the proper signage posted on the premises, and the employees going through with their dry runs, having their seller server training. The manager has to be ramp seller server trained, as well as owner manager trained, prior to us getting our approval. Under the liquor code, it provides for all new employees hired, and which these would all be new employees working at this facility. They have to have their ramp seller server training if they're going to be selling and serving alcohol within 180 days from the date of the final inspection.
Mr. Zeller, we have 3 additional people that were just added to the Zoom viewing. Do you know who they are? Can you introduce them to us?
Yes, I can only see one of them. Let me see if I can slide over.
He did introduce them at the start of his hearing.
Yes. Stephen,
Pardon me?
I was trying to go back to have Stephen unmuted for him to introduce himself. I have Stephen Takeuchi, who was the Construction and Compliance Senior Manager. I can see him on the screen. And I believe I've got on there Mia Fleming,
And her
Business Development.
her responsibilities are?
Hello,
Hello, we can hear you.
Mia.
Hi. I work under Mr. Takeuchi, specifically with licensing and compliance at Round 1.
Okay. All right. That's
And
it.
then we have our District Manager, Jacob Schnell. And I don't see him.
Okay, thank you. So we know who's there. Gentlemen, do you have any additional questions?
I do. I'd like to go back to Mr. Tukmejian's question, and maybe you can provide some more insight on what this specific violation was. The violation that's noted in the application is failure of manager to complete the ramp training. You just testified to us or informed us that that is a requirement that it is completed prior to final inspection, yet there appears to have been a case where that was not the case.
I believe it was an administrative oversight with getting the ramp training on when they went through and they got their approval on that. I believe we have those problems figured out, because moving forward, we'll be having the owners and the managers getting their training prior to us being able to be open.
All right, so let's talk about that timeline a little bit. When do you plan to open?
If construction started this October, we would try to be open probably between July and August of 2021. That time frame, depending on PLCB prior approval and being able to arrange for the construction, may put that time frame back a little bit further.
Are you affected by, the state of affairs today with the pandemic and delayed start of construction? Is that an issue? Is that part of the cause, or is this just strictly due to the liquor?
No, it's basically part of the COVID-19 shutdown situation that we find ourselves in, which is one of the reasons why with our application, right as we were filing for the intermunicipal, we had to get the extension to go beyond the 45 days that are provided for in the liquor code. So it's basically been the COVID-19 shutdown driven, as well as with the PLCB working with a skeleton crew on the physical premises.
Okay. You know, I was doing some research on your website, and you talk about basically on their website, there's 3 different types of stores or locations: a regular type, a compact type, and stadium type. I'm assuming this would be something kind of in between the regular type and stadium type, given the square footage is, you know, over the 60,000 that's listed there, 60,000 square feet. So could you kind of give some insight as far as, you know, how this model you know, compares to some of the other locations?
Steve, can Steven hear me?
Give me 1 second.
Look, can you hear me? Oh,
There you go.
hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi. So the difference between our premises between the 3 types. So for example, we recently opened, actually we have 2 locations in close proximity to Philadelphia, one in Exton, as Greg mentioned, and also one in downtown Philly. So those are our traditional stores with only like arcade, bowling lanes, billiard tables, and party rooms. However, the location in this project, we have a new concept from our locations in Japan called a sports challenge, where it's more of you get to enjoy multiple miniature versions of basketball. We have a full-on skating rink. We have a batting cage. We have a golf cage. Many, like 15 to 20 different amenities depending on the location. But we call this more of our stadium. At least in Japan, they call it the stadium concept. But here, we just call it sports challenge, or sportcha for short. And this kind of facility typically requires more, so over 63,000 square feet, whereas in our traditional stores are averaging about 55,000 square feet. Sorry, were you guys able to hear me on that?
Yes.
That was great. Thank you. I appreciate it. One of the things that you mentioned in your presentation was regarding security, and that you would have 2, sometimes 3 security guards on site. This is, you know, going into an anchor location in a, you know, retail shopping mall with, right now, you know, you're taking over an old Sears location with multiple access points, whether it's through the mall or from the outside. So can somebody please explain, you know, how security is going to work and how many access points will be into the facility?
The access points coming through the main facility will come through the main door. The only access, and which will bring you into the main dining area and the arcade. There will be an access point that goes into the Spocha Center, where no alcohol or anything will be allowed in that particular area. There will be a snack bar back there that'll serve drinks, but there won't be any alcohol back there. We will have security guards that will monitor the access points, as well as employees patrolling all those areas, both patron and non-patron areas.
So I don't know if that really answers the question of how many access points to get into the facility. Right now, and anybody can correct me, but probably 5 access points that you could get into the Sears facility, whether through the mall or from different sides on the perimeter of the building.
Well, go ahead.
So I'll answer that question. So for our space, we have 2 entries. The first entry, the main one being the exterior entrance, and then the second one being the mall entrance. Since this is 1 floor, we tried to, I think you guys had the layout pulled out on the screen, shared screen, but if you could look at the layout again, it will be on your left-hand side for the exterior parking lot entrance, and then it should be the mall entrance on the bottom side.
Okay.
And then typically the mall entrance will close when the mall closes. So at nighttime, the only point of access will be the exterior parking lot entrance. And that is where we typically place our security guard to do the initial check ID check for the age requirement for our house rules. So if you could see the screen right now, the mall entrance is towards the bottom, towards the left side, next to what looks like the restrooms. So that'll be the mall entry right there. And then the parking lot entry will be on the left wall, on the most upper side of the left side of the wall within our space, where you see the double layer of entry or the vestibules.
Yes.
So that'll be our only entrance at nighttime. So that's how we control our crowd, or the crowd of people coming in.
Okay. Thank you. And then I guess my last question is kind of a general question and more of a concern that I have. Seeing the one violation that's already in the application, and this summary punchline you have in your presentation, round one is a responsible owner making a significant investment that will be protected by responsible management and well-trained employees. You've already got a red flag before you've even started construction, and so that's very concerning for me. And so I want to find some kind of concrete answer from somebody of how round one is going to ensure that they're going to be a responsible member of this community, ensuring the safety and well-being of its patrons, who probably for the most part are going to be Bensalem residents.
Before we open, we'll be able to go ahead and be able to show you that the manager has been ramp trained and certified. And we'll be able to show you that our wait staff, 50%, at least 50%, will be ramp trained and ramp certified prior to opening.
What agency it did?
Mr. Pizzo, we could make sure that that's done by building and planning before they open, correct? Make sure they have everything in line, or one of our departments take care of that. This way it can be reported back to council and let us know that it was all done by the book.
If I believe so, if I understood your question, Mr. Polari, if I understood the general gist of the discussion, obviously the final say for this liquor license transfer goes with the Liquor Control Board. They have final say over whether this applicant gets a liquor license for this location or not. The LCB, again, is the entity charged with making sure that this liquor license, assuming they receive a liquor license, that any liquor license holder within the Commonwealth and any liquor license holder within Bensalem Township is complying with state LCB laws. That's where the jurisdiction lies, not with the township, but with the LCB. So if the LCB is satisfied that whatever the cause for the prior violation and whatever the cause for the prior flagging for this particular applicant, that they're going to have to cross all the T's, dot all the I's, do all the compliance things that they're going to have to do for the LCB in order to operate. Whether there's a probationary period associated with that or not based on this prior event, I don't know. But again, ultimately, in order for this applicant to operate in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in Lancaster and here, they're going to have to comply with all state liquor license requirements.
And that applies also at all the other locations that we're currently operating in PA.
I have a question for you. What agency initiated the violation against you on the ramp process?
That would be the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement, who enforces the liquor laws, which is part of the state police.
Okay.
Managers not getting their training done within 180 days, believe it or not, is more common. It's one of the more minor situations or minor citations. And part of it
Doesn't
is, even though
really
it's
make it
important,
an okay instance for us, though.
no, even though it's extremely important, a lot of it is basically people losing track of the 180-day period within which to get their ramp certification. You can have a manager that would come in. They don't need to have the ramp training immediately in order for them to become the licensed manager. That usually comes generally after they are already approved. With employee turnover, we find it, more frequently. We'll have one manager that will get it, and then that manager will leave, and then we will go ahead and have to employ somebody else that we will have to report to the PLCB, who then gets vetted. What we will be able to do is be able to provide you with the ramp certification, which they would receive from the ramp office, showing that the establishment itself is ramp certified for its seller servers. And it's the only individuals that are serving alcohol that need the ramp certification with that. So we can provide you with the certificate that the PLCB would issue showing that the establishment was ramp certified. And the requirement for that's at least 50% of your employees have the seller server training.
Councilman, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So just not to beat a dead horse here, but the liquor board will take care of making sure that you're compliant at this point. And you have security besides the security guard. You're hiring 3 outside security guards, but you also have management people and people who manage the bar area and people who manage different areas of the facility that are going to also assist in managing the crowd and making sure that the everything's done properly.
That is correct. We
Okay.
will have floor monitors.
It looks like it's going to take extensive construction to rehab the Sears building, which is abandoned now. So when do you anticipate that you're at least going to be beginning construction, like putting in bowling alleys and actually refitting the inside of the building?
Stephen,
Yeah, I can answer that. So the landlord informed us, actually, we had a phone conference this morning. They informed us that their intention to start their portion of the work will be, they're hoping to start around next month. And they plan to turn over the space to round 1 around October if everything goes well.
Okay, great.
Edward, do you have another question? Councilman Kajian?
Yep, I have a few. And let's go back to the application. It notes on, I don't know what page it is, page 2 of 6, corporate partnership or other owners as Brookfield Properties or Neshaminy Mall. Is there any ownership interest, or is there a shared ownership interest in this?
You mean within the round 1 space?
Yeah.
No,
Within that-
round 1
within that particular
entertainment.
location.
No, our lease premise is solely owned by, or not owned by, it's controlled by Round 1 Entertainment, Inc.
Okay. The second question I have is, there is a discrepancy in regards to the hours of operation, and on the application, it notes to 5 a.m. I was trying to get to that page. Yeah, here we go. Page 4 of 6, down towards the bottom portion, hours of operation will be 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 5 a.m. Friday through Saturday.
that was,
However, on the intermunicipal transfer presentation document, it does state that it's 2 a.m. Can you clarify?
yes, at the time when we filled out the application, they were looking at starting a new concept to be able to go to 5 a.m. That decision has been tabled for the time being for this location. So that would, that's what the discrepancy is between this and the application itself, which was being corrected with the presentation.
So I'm going to defer the question to Mr. Pizzo. Can you clarify our code in terms of hours of operation? Would they even be allowed to go to 5 a.m.?
I don't know
Okay, so you're,
off the top of my head, Ed, whether they could or couldn't. The applicant, however, has just placed on the record the fact that this particular establishment does not intend to be open past 2 o'clock. That's what their liquor license application says, and they've amended their application orally this evening through their attorney. So I could certainly get an answer to you for that question for your own edification, but as to this application, unless I misheard what was just said, this business will be serving liquor until 1:30 and will be closing at 2.
Well, and one of the things that I did mention, I mentioned that we had tabled, originally that was the plan coming in. We had tabled the operating hours to take it until 2 a.m. Under the liquor code, in order for us to be able to be open until 5 a.m., no alcohol would be able to be served after 2 o'clock. And we would have to get what they call an extended hours food permit to permit people to be on the licensed premises between the hours of 2 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Okay.
There's pools.
All right, so then regardless, another permit would have to be submitted to the township for a request to extend the hours through 5 a.m.
If the council had an ordinance that required you to get a permit to be open past 2 a.m., we would file that extended hours food permit. That is a permit that we would obtain from the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
Got it.
Don't we have other establishments that are open beyond 2 a.m.? I mean, do we have pool holes? Do they close at 2 o'clock? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have one on Bristol Road. I don't know how late they're open,
Yeah, I don't know either.
you know.
What time is the casino open till?
Exactly.
These days?
I do have so just, Mr. Pizzo, while I have you, my other question to you is, if we were to approve this transfer, this is strictly limited to the licensed areas as noted on this diagram. So I'm just throwing it out there theoretically. If there's another building that's there within that mall area that sits adjacent to round one, and let's just say they wanted to expand into that building, they would not be able to, and they would have to submit for an extension of this license or get another license.
No, they wouldn't.
Was that question directed to me?
No, Mr. Pizzo.
The license can always be modified, but as to this particular applicant, they are, round one is applying for a liquor license for premises identified as, I believe, 707 Neshaminy Mall. That's the location to which the liquor license is being assigned, and this is the applicant to whom the liquor license is being, it would be, you know, in whose name the liquor license would be.
Correct.
If they were to expand their space in the mall, no, I don't believe that in and of itself would require them either coming back here or going to back to the Liquor Control Board. If they were to try and move that license to a different location altogether, then yes, then I believe that's something that at a minimum is going to have to go back to the Liquor Control Board.
Right. All right. Thank you.
They could change the name.
And Greg, please correct me if I said anything that you believe is incorrect.
Well, if they were going to say they were going to expand into one of the spaces that borders them, they would have to file an extension of premises application with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. If there was going to be any additional build out of that space, they would have to come back and comply with whatever the building ordinances are for the municipality.
Correct.
Conversely, if you were to change the integrity of the business itself and make it completely 21 and over to drink and not have the facilities where 18-year-olds could come in and such, you wouldn't need another license. That should be your prerogative of your business as you would run a business. You're applying for a liquor license. What you're supplying us with is the nature of your business as how it's going to be run and how you do it at this time. That would be my opinion.
That is correct.
I have
And
one
then I have one final question real quick. Just from a layout question, how do you limit the alcohol usage between the restaurant and the center, I believe you call it. You know, so say, for example, someone over 21 wants to go and utilize that center. You know, do you have someone there that's ensuring they're not taking the alcohol into that site? Or conversely, then how are you then managing that if they want to? I'm assuming then they can go into utilize the SPOCHA and then go into the restaurant, and then a band is given. Can you just explain that piece of the operation?
Yeah. So I don't know if someone could pull up the layout again, but we actually only have one point of entry for guests to get into our sports challenge complex. Within the layout, it's that it's in that middle bottom area, right below the D on licensed. So this is our sports challenge accounting area. So there'll be a gate with at least 2 staff attending that area. So they will be able to see if guests have drinks or food and beverage, alcohol beverages, and control it that way.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Gentlemen, are there any questions?
I had one more general question. How many employees do you expect to hire at this facility who are not security, not the security guard firm, but your own employees, around what employees? How many people do you expect to employ from the area?
We're looking to employ. Go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, no. I think Greg had that in his presentation. He said 10 full-time, 50 part-time, but that's just our speculation or initial speculation. We might hire more since the sports challenge complex is still a new concept to us as well. So we're just going off of the calculated estimate of our stores in Japan. But depending on the intensity of usage and like the patronage, we might have to increase depending on just how many people come and use the facility.
Okay, great. So that's 10 full-time and 50 part-time. Sorry, I missed that.
No, no problem. I mean, hopefully this will be a successful one and we meet the requirement or meet the expectation of the township.
Yeah, I think
If there's no more questions, I'm going to ask for your consideration for a motion to be put on the floor.
Hold on one second.
Hold on 1 second.
I'll make a motion that we, for approval of an ordinance approving the round 1 entertainment to transfer our liquor license number R17205, appealing all inconsistent orders and establishing the effective date thereof as presented.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion on the floor.
Allow the record to reflect, Mr. Kisselback, that prior to the meeting and during the course of the hearing, the township received no comment by way of either regular mail or by email in regard to this application.
All right, so this is an ordinance process, so there were no public comment presented to the council as of today. We have a second on the motion, Councilman Polari. Any additional discussion on the motion? Not hearing any, I'll call the motion. We'll call roll call, so we just, so we can see everybody. Mr. Polari?
I vote aye.
Mr. Knowles?
Aye.
Mr. Sloan?
Aye.
Mr. Tokmajian?
I'll vote aye.
And I also vote aye, so that is unanimous, as I hear it.
I thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck.
I think it's going to do great there. You guys are going to do a great job.
Thank you very much for your support.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming into Bensalem.
Look forward to it.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 5. This is going to be the consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of all required forms and documents for the purpose of obtaining financial assistance under the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, Public Law 93-288, as amended by Public Law 100-707. Mr. Pizzo, I'll have you explain it to us. if you would like.
Give me 1 second. I was taking care of monitoring the meeting there.
Sorry about that.
Yes, so as council was previously briefed, before you is a resolution that, if with your approval, will be submitted to FEMA to help the township get reimbursed for funds that it has expended in relation to the declaration of emergency that was started in March of this year, obviously related to the COVID-19 crisis that we are still engaged in. The resolution would allow us to recoup, we hope, from FEMA some portion, if not all, of the costs that we've expended thus far in relation to any aspect of the crisis that the township has had to expend monies. Both the mayor and Director of Public Safety Harron are obviously on the Zoom as well. I don't know if either of them have anything to add in relation to the township's efforts so far, but the resolution is necessary in the form required by FEMA, and again, it's been presented to all of you prior to this evening for us to, for the township to submit and begin the process of trying to recoup some of those funds.
I just continue on that. That takes us up to this date. Also I signed an emergency to continue this. So this isn't the end of our limitations that we hope to get for all of our expenses. So this will take us up to a certain date. Fred, if you want to add anything onto it.
Mayor, that's a good point. This will take us to the end of April. There'll be additional forms as we go. Just as you know, Governor Wolf signed the declaration of disaster on March the 11th. The mayor signed it on Governor Wolf on March the 6th, the mayor on March the 11th, and the President of the United States on March the 13th. So that will enable us to get funds that we've spent from FEMA back to the township. But this only goes till April 30th. So there will be another one of these forms when this ends, whenever that day is.
Gentlemen, are there any other questions?
How much are we set to recover through the end of April?
Approximately right now, total expense is about $100,000. It's about $60,000 encompasses the township administration, police and fire, and about $40,000 from EMS.
And can you give a little bit more explanation on what some of those costs were?
Certainly. We got ahead of it very early on, back on March the 11th, if not a few days before that. We started, March the 11th rather, we started purchasing PPE. We kind of saw what was coming, and we needed to purchase our protection equipment for our emergency responders. So that was a big supply. We had sent folks to New York to get supplies and all throughout Pennsylvania. It also purchased a lot of the other masks that we now have. We recently bought about $18,000 worth of other masking and other type of PPE. It also will help reimburse the township for the dividers that have been installed throughout the township building to ensure social distancing when people are at their workstations. A lot of it is, most of it is that PPE. There was not a lot of overtime expensed by the township during this, but most of it is the PPE and other type of equipment.
And then do you have any idea right now? I mean, I know that the state of affairs is somewhat open-ended, so, you know, the end date is uncertain, but do you have any estimate for how much in total we'll attempt to recover? I know this gets 100,000 through the end of April. We're almost at the end of May. I would expect we're going to have some costs extending through the summer.
Well, we still have, the PPE was already paid for, so that encompasses that PPE, but we have a lot of it stockpiled for emergency services. It's also been used, the money to clean equipment and to clean cells and to clean police vans professionally. So that's an ongoing expense. I don't have a broken down number right now. I think the bulk of our expense, unless something happens in September or October where the virus comes back stronger than it was, I can't predict that, obviously. But as of now, I don't foresee a lot. I don't see another $100,000 being expended.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to, Mr. Mayor, will there be any opportunity to get any of the cost of, or get any of the monies back for the employees and things that we did to keep the township going and running and all that good stuff? Is there going to be anything through the state or through the federal government that we might be able to recoup some of those expenses? I know they did the.
I think Fred took care of that in that 100,000 that we're talking about. All the things we've done in here in the building to make it safe for the employees was all part of that. Joe, I don't think there's anything after that it would take care of that. As far as no special training, I can't think of anything that we did. Fred, can you think of anything there?
No, the $100,000 did incorporate any overtime or employee expenses related to the COVID issue. So we can't recoup regular items that would normally have been covered without COVID expenses. But bringing in extra cleaners, paying for special cleaning to stuff that equipment on employees. If Public Works had to work extra other days, like a snowstorm, but I don't believe that occurred.
Yeah, I can't think
at all.
I guess what I'm asking is, the government did the stuff for the businesses so they can pay their employees and keep them employed. Is there going to be anything, or have we heard anything, or know if there's going to be anything for the townships to be able to Joe, let me finish, Joe. Let me finish.
Yeah,
let me finish.
Okay.
Jules, let me finish.
All right.
Thank you. Because I mean, if they're giving that money for the businesses to keep their employees paid while they're not working, why wouldn't there be something like that for the townships? Are we keeping an eye on that, or asking the questions of that of our federal government officials?
The part that I see your point. Our people were all working mostly at home. We never really laid anybody off. We never furloughed anybody. We kept them working, at home. So I don't know. We'd have to look at that administratively, Joe. If there is some federal money for some of the people, maybe like Public Works didn't work all the time because they were at home. They couldn't use computers, obviously, doing that. So it's a decent point that we had to look at. I appreciate that point.
Yeah, if there's any opportunity for us to recoup money to help, to help the township end of it, I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I thought the county was going to come through with something on that. But what they just had a small businessman's loan actually today till 9 o'clock tonight to get your application in. It was a $25,000 grant, wasn't a loan. I thought, and we're working on that. I did work with the commissioners. I did write a letter to them specifically what you're talking about, the county, because the county did get money from the federal government. That's what they're using now for the small business. So I don't know what the outcome of that will be. But with the county, we did put in, I sent a letter to them, specifically what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joe, Mr. Polari, I understood what you were asking in the first place, so I was trying to help you there. But the payment protection program didn't include anything for municipalities, but the phase 2, if they ever get around to passing something else, may. So I think we do have to keep an eye on that on a federal level, whether they're going to have some relief for townships and municipalities, or
that's in that new $3 trillion.
Yeah, that they may have money for us keeping employees on, as opposed to laying them off and having the unemployment figure even higher than they are, because we kept people on, as doing the right thing. But there's a possibility we could be reimbursed for that, but it'd be in a future phase that they're fighting about now, I think.
That's why I was asking the question.
We look
Yeah.
all the time, Mr. Polari. We're always online with meetings multiple times a week. So if money becomes available, we'll make sure we make a grant for anything that we're entitled to. There's no doubt about it.
Thank
Oh,
you, Fred.
absolutely.
And
And
even,
maybe the county will come through, Joe, too. We'll see.
and assuming if maybe phase 2 does go through and they allot monies for local governments, and I'd be even open to the idea of doing a letter from all of us, from council and the mayor, to whoever's administering that at the state level or the county level to see to it that we get a portion of that.
Sure, absolutely.
I have one other question. This resolution, Director Haran, is this simply an application? Are we guaranteed these funds once they're submitted?
Federal government, you got to be kidding.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, so we're asking for this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get the $100,000.
So we've already submitted the preliminary budget request through the county, through FEMA. It looks like everything we've submitted, they haven't had questions on. That's why now the resolution to allow us to act on behalf of the township is FEMA won't do anything unless there's some sort of resolution from the governing board. So the answer to your question, it looks like the money that we're interested in getting back, we don't seem to have a problem with anything. They hadn't had any questions. The only issue is it's not going to be next week. I can tell you.
Takes time.
12 months to 18 months, but we see it.
Okay, well, let's get to done and
I'll
fighting for it.
All right, gentlemen,
I'll be-
any other questions? If not, I'll ask for the resolution, ask for a motion at this time.
I'll make the motion that we approve and accept the designation of agent resolution as it's written under Bensalem Township for name of applicant being Lieutenant Race, and then we accept and approve.
Second.
Motion on the floor?
Larry seconded.
Blair, we got you seconded, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Moving right along. And now we're going to go to public comment. Mr. Pizzo had commented already that we do have one email that had come in on public comment. Do you want to expand on that, Mr. Pizzo?
Certainly. And a second comment came in during the meeting, also that would be a non-agenda public comment. So the first one is from Joseph Connolly, 568 Bristol Pike in Bensalem. Mr. Connolly writes that he'd like an update on the removal of the dirt pile behind his house. He's also making the council aware that he received $7,000 worth of fines for illegal vehicles on his property, building a retaining wall by the Lafayette Garden Apartments that he did not construct, trash and debris, and water runoff that washes out the land that comes from his neighbor's property. He says he's receiving a fine because it's running through his property onto the Lafayette Garden property. He's making us aware that he hired a new land surveyor engineer to give him an ALTA certified survey in the ongoing dispute with his property with the neighboring property owner over the location of the property line and whether the neighboring building encroaches. And finally, his neighbor had his stormwater management plan fail, according to Mr. Neron, and he'd like to know what's going to happen about that because he's tired of getting fines. I would, at the outset, and Quentin obviously is on the call to address those things that we can. I would just, at the outset, remind all of you or make you all aware that Mr. Connolly hasn't been fined anything, at least not that I'm aware of. He has received citations which, if found guilty on all of them, I imagine could reach fines in the amount of $7,000. I don't know if that's the accurate total or not. I'll take him at his word. But at this point, he hasn't been fined anything, at least not by Bensalem Township. He has been cited. And Quentin, please feel free to hop in. Mr. Popley has also been cited. Both Mr. Popley and Mr. Connolly, the neighboring property owners, are scheduled to go to court now that the court system is slowly ramping back up. And so, to the extent that a number of these items do fall within the purview of what is now litigation involving Mr. Connolly, Mr. Popley, and the township, I don't know that there's too much more that we can say as to the particulars of those items. But if you can give any sort of an update, Mr. Neron, at least on what the status of Mr. Popley's stormwater management situation is.
Yes, several months ago, we went out to check the recharge pit that was installed. We found out that it was leaking at the lower end. We assumed that when they didn't have an inspector at present when they installed it, so we're assuming by how the water was releasing out that it was only dug 2 foot deep on a slope. So basically, the bottom of the recharge pit has to be at a level ground so all the water stays in, and then when it does release, it releases over the entire area. So by releasing out at the lower spot, we're assuming that they just installed a 2 foot hole or trench about 25 feet wide on the existing grade, which does not hold back the stormwater runoff that was required.
And who would have been the inspector at the time on that?
That would have been our office.
So we missed that.
Yeah, when we didn't have any calls for any inspections. The last time we were called for any inspections down there, I couldn't even tell you the date, is when they initially started doing the paving. A lot of the work was done after the fact without any inspections from our office.
Okay. And that's on Mr. Connolly's property or Popley's property?
No, that's on Popley's property. I believe the average is 657, I believe. I'm not sure.
Right, okay.
So he didn't get a license for doing the work. He didn't get a permit for doing the work either.
He did get permits. He just did not have an inspector present before they filled the hole in with the recharge stone and the fabric. So we talked to Mr. Popley about that. We told him if he digs the stone out, we can have somebody come back down. We'll verify that the subgrade is level, and then he can install the stone back in, but we have not been out there yet. And I believe I talked to Mr. Savage earlier. She says that the court hearing, which this actually, the recharge pit is part of that issue, he is either scheduled for the 18th or the 22nd of June. And Connolly would be the other one.
Is the dirt pile included in that?
Yes.
I was down there several times when we had some bad weather, and there was majorly water running off the dirt pile and from Mr. Popley's property onto Connolly's property and down on into the condos down there. And I was one windy day. The trash was just blowing right across his property and right onto Connolly's property. So for him to get fined or to get cited for something that isn't being controlled like it's supposed to on Mr. Popley's property is a problem. And I think he has to be held, and hopefully the court actions will take care of that, because he just doesn't care. I mean, it's just people are throwing things in the dumpster. They finally got the fence up, right? Did they put the slats in the fence?
I don't know if the slats have been put in. I know there was damage done to the fence. So I'm assuming that's between the two property owners right now. I don't know what the outcome of that is, though.
I'm talking about the enclosure for the dumpster.
At Popley's property, right?
But there was no slats in the
slats were
fence
not
around that.
No, but now the fence has been damaged the last time I was aware, and that was been months ago since I've been there.
If they don't meet the requirements, that's when we're going to get involved. Is that correct?
It just seems to me that a lot of the stuff that's going wrong is on that property and causing a lot of problems for Mr. Connolly, who's been there for a lot of years. And I just think we need to get to the bottom of it and get it fixed so we can, have you guys not have to keep going down there and bothering with this.
Mr. Pizzo, is there anything that that we can do from a township, or are we kind of tied up right now because this is in going to court, within the month?
I would have to assume that in addition to this private lawsuits, I guess, against each other, the township would be involved from our end of it and pursue whatever would have to be corrected independently of the lawsuits. I'm assuming, is that correct, Mr. Pizzo?
Yes, and again, as Quentin indicated, there are a number of citations that have been issued to Mr. Connolly, a number of citations that have been issued to Mr. Popley. As a result of the ongoing and seemingly never-ending issues between the two property owners, at again, in the early part of when the pandemic struck, the township had filed, as I understand it, and again, Quentin, correct me if I'm wrong, the Building and Planning Department had filed citations against both property owners for all of the matters that we've been discussing this evening and previously as well. But for the fact that the court systems shut down, as did the rest of the world sometime in mid to late March, these would have already been in front of Judge Gallagher. But at this point, now that the court is back to scheduling things, they'll both be in front of the judge for the respective citations we anticipate in June.
Okay, gentlemen, we beat that enough. If there's anything else you want to add?
There is a second email that came in this evening
Exactly.
from a resident Eileen Keefe. Good evening, council members. Thank you for all you do for Bensalem.
4 a.m. I thought so.
Her first question was, did Fisher's Restaurant obtain a permit to cover, as she puts it, all their grass with concrete?
Good question.
They covered all the impervious surface surrounding their property. She's not crazy about the way it looks, believes it may be unsafe for pedestrians at that intersection. Quentin, do you have any insight on that particular action by Fisher?
Yes. Last year, I forget what month, we were sent out, I would say about a year ago. They were doing the same thing on another location. We had issued a stop work order. A few months back, they did do the intersection area along Humeville Road to Street Road again. Building and planning had gone out. There's other areas where they were doing some construction without permits. They were issued a stop work order. I don't know the status of that situation, but I know I have not seen anything come to our office. So I'm assuming that the permit applications have not been made yet, and there's still a shutdown, stop work order posted.
Well, there's no impervious surface left. Everything is covered.
Correct. So they wouldn't need to get a variance for anything or remove the concrete. I explained to the owner last year that the area along Virginia Avenue at Humeville, there was areas where they could put mulch back. There was bushes that were taken out, and I explained to him that part of the council code is if you do have parking, you need to have that buffer. That's one of the complaints that was issued. We have not gotten any response back. So we're hoping at this point, when building planning has their notice of violation go out, that we can have all this addressed at the same time.
Well, I called Ken, and I called the mayor's office the day I saw it. And the cement, they cemented around telephone poles, around signs that belong to PennDOT. And the cement, there's no impervious surface. So all that water that hits the cement is going to run on the Unionville Road. So I think we should be going after them about this, not waiting to a certain point for them to respond to us when they want to respond.
Joe, we did. Joe, we did go. Quentin, did you go out? I know I sent somebody out right away.
They said they went out. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Brian from Code Inspections was the inspector that went out and talked it over with them. But as far as I know, I don't know what the status is off the top of my head on where he stands with them right now.
Yeah, but they're not variance.
Well, find out for me
Okay.
tomorrow.
We can't give them any kind of variance to keep it the way it is. To me, it looks like it's going to be dangerous. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but there's nowhere for the water to go. Besides, it's hideous looking.
Plus, if you get cold weather and rain, you're gonna have ice there.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
gonna run more water off on District,
it's a
on
hill.
Unville and Street Road.
Plus, I don't know how they have, there must be easements along there for signs and for underground stuff, and I don't know how they can cement over easements. They're cementing around telephone poles.
Hey, Quentin, maybe a PennDOT too. They might, in the right of way there.
Yeah, it's all probably right away where they concreted in there. Not all of it, most of it.
So
Why don't we get PennDOT involved too?
Okay.
I can contact their permit office and see if they'll get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The second, Ms. Keefe has a second matter on which she would like to comment. This is something I think that you have heard previously. The curved curbs in Eddington and Cornwells. She believes that those direct stormwater and are not decorative, as was previously mentioned. Further, the company that worked on installing the storm sewer system, the new storm sewer system in Eddington, damaged the curved curbs at Forest and Rosalie back in the spring and summer of 2018. Every curved curb was ultimately replaced, except for the two at Rosalie and Forest. Quentin, anything on curved curbs or Russ at Rosalie and Forest?
First off, regards to the Rosalie and Forest Avenue curb, Gilmore Associates was the inspector on that project. They asked us to get involved. This is going back some time as well. We looked on Google Street View and saw some damaged curb in that exact same location. I believe that they took that link from, I'm going to say 5 to 7 years ago, went back out, examined the curb, determined that it was not as part of the construction for the storm sewers, and that the contractor was not responsible for that curb damage.
Okay.
That project, as far as I know, has been closed out. So I would assume that they found it unfounded.
Yeah, and I brought that up. I want to say it was about a year ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's a while.
Yeah, I
ago.
remember, and I went out there myself, and I looked
Yeah, I
at it
did
as
too,
well.
Ed.
Yeah, did you? And and I guess when we're talking curbs, a lot of the neighborhood back there doesn't have concrete curbs. We're talking about some of them are the blacktop curbs, and I think there at Forest and Rosalie, they were some of the blacktop curbs, and I can understand the reasoning behind having them there. She's looking to possibly help direct some of the water runoff to keep it on the street. And that's why, and not just in that intersection, I know she was looking at what solutions as a township we could come up with, putting something in to help direct that water into those storm sewers, being that we replaced them.
Well, there are really two questions at play. One is, and what Quentin was saying is that to the extent that those curbs may or may not be damaged, and it sounds as if they are, it wasn't something that we ultimately concluded we could turn around and charge back to the contractor.
Understood.
So at least insofar as going to the contractor who did the work to say, hey, fix this, the contractor said, I didn't do it, and it would seem, at least based on photos taken prior to the construction, that the damage that's there now is consistent with the damage that existed before the job was done. Is that correct, Quentin?
Correct.
Okay, so
I have a question though,
least- at
Joe. I'm
least-
trying to get
at
an
least
answer.
as to getting a contractor to replace the curb, that ship has sailed. There's no, the township has no basis to do that.
I understand that, Joe, but the question for me is, and this is maybe a legal thing, or I've been trying to get this answer, is of course regular curbing in front of your house, okay, eventually goes into storm drains, and sidewalks, curbing sidewalk. This is more like when the curbing cement. This is more like curbs that are around just the storm drain on the corner of the street. It's just a storm drain like protector thing that, at the very end puts wood storm drain. So they're not really traditional curbs that you think of and that we prorate people for. So my question keeps being, I've been told by the administration that, they're curbs, so the homeowner's responsible for those curbs. But to me, they seem like they're part of just the isolated storm drain, and who repairs storm drains, which is part of them are cement.
Hold on. I went out there myself, looking at it, got involved with Quentin, want to know what the situation is, looked up all the back records, try to find out exactly what was going on. They were put in a long time ago. Am I right, Quentin?
Correct. I don't even know what year, but it's been like
We
the
tried
70s.
looking up to find out exactly how and why they were done and who's responsible and everything like that. Come back to me that you guys out there, the engineers are telling me that it's a responsibility of the people because it's curbing. Now, that's as far as I got. I didn't get any further with that. I went out and looked at it personally. I went out because, took pictures and, so that's where we're at. I was told by our people here that it's not our responsibility. So
Yeah, Mayor, can I jump in? I don't think we're on that trying to hold someone responsible for it. I don't think we're there. I think we're beyond that. I think her general. Well, let me ask Quentin this. Quentin, those are Mr. Knowles also mentioned it. We're talking about those blacktop curbs. Are they beneficial being there, or were they beneficial, or what was the reason? Let's just say it was in 1960 that they put them there. What was the reason for them there? And do you think that there was a plus for them being there?
I'm not sure what the reasoning was. All I have out there is like a 20-foot radius of curb. So you have a curved corner, basically, with an inlet off of that curb line at that location. They're all over Eddington. Some intersections have the curbing, some of them don't. The curbing really doesn't help unless it's along the entire property, the actual channel that water into those drains. So any water coming down these roads are still going to be coming down the edge of pavement where the grass from the properties are meeting in the right of way. They're still traveling that, but I don't know if there was maybe gutter swales years ago before I started in Bensalem, but the curbing is really not benefiting anything out there, directing the water in there. If the curbs were removed, the water would still get to those drains.
I know, but some of them are, not to interrupt,
Is
some of the
exactly
curbs
what
are
you
cement.
said.
Okay, so there's a big cement one at Finley and Clovernook, and there's other cement ones out. And I think what happened was, I'm not sure because I wasn't around, but I think they put cement ones in for some reason. I'm not an engineer, but they put curbs, cement, and then when some of the cement ones got deteriorated, they replaced them with asphalt or added asphalt ones to them too. So some are asphalt, but there are cement ones too. But the cement seems to me to be part of the actual drain, storm drain.
Well, let me ask a question. I'm hearing everything here. Quentin, you say that the curbing really doesn't act. It doesn't really have to be there. I think I heard you say that.
Correct, because basically the inlets are.
Okay. I heard you say that.
Okay.
I think Mrs. Keefe, I think it is saying that they do need the curbing repaired because it's making a problem. So we can't just take it out if she has a problem that she thinks that the curb needs to be there. So I'm kind of lost between the two situations here.
Well, let's say, for argument's sake, you have 30 intersections in Eddington. 20 of those intersections have curb on 4 sides. Some of those locations, the curbing might be beneficial to that location. Others, they might not. So each case would have to be looked at an individual case instead of an overall.
Okay, that's a new story now. To me, that's a new story. So how about we look at them individually and we see what has to be done, especially Mrs. Keefe. Now, get out there, tell me if a curb's needed, not needed, repaired, or what really has to be done. We've been doing this for a few months now.
Right.
I know we got tied up with the COVID-19 and everything has really disturbed everything.
The one in Rosalie and Forest is so deteriorated, it's more of an eyesore than anything. So it has to be determined by an engineer whether they're doing it.
Mr. Mayor.
It's because it's an eyesore.
Yeah, Joe.
This is my neighborhood. I live here, and it's important. I'd like to be involved in this if we're going to do this and do it the right way, because we have there's quite a few drain places here where the water doesn't get to the drain, or it's down below, or it's up above. And I think it's something that we have to look at altogether, not just the area that we just did, but throughout Eddington altogether. Because where I am, we have the runoff coming off Street Road, and there's problems with laying water out in the street and water not being able to get to the drain down at either end of the street. And I think it's something we just need to look at and making it, trying to make it work for the people of Eddington.
Well, I think that's another ball game. That's our next phase of Eddington. We did Ogden Avenue. That was phase one. A phase to take the whole drainage area to go on. But I think if these curbs right now is an immediate something that we can work on together and go out and see which ones they are and what we can do. But overall, Eddington is a phase two.
All right, gentlemen, you have it.
Real
Mr.
quick,
Mayor,
I'm
you're going to.
I'm sorry. Real
Mr.
quick,
Mayor, you're going to address it. You're going to go out and look at it. And Quentin, you're going to individually ascertain what needs to be done for the specific curbs, if there can be something done to resolve or at least to address each area itself. Is
We'll
that
do it
correct?
together. Well, we got to find, because there's such a difference here between what's a curb, what's not a curb.
And Councilman Clary wants to be involved with it because he knows the area real well, and he knows he can point out things that maybe
Absolutely.
we're not aware of.
And
All right,
I wanted to, Mr. Kisbeck, I wanted to add one thing real quick, just to touch on Mr. Polari's point about looking at a bigger picture. Do we consider doing curbs along the entire street, or at least on the frontage of those corner properties that are within those intersections that we're looking at?
I don't think
Well,
we have that question answered. We don't know.
I don't want to interrupt. I would say that we have to look at all of Eddington. We took sections to drain. It's a big problem. Like Joe Polari, like his neighbor, he said there's a lot of water laying all over. Remember, they want to put the car wash up there and they want to take all the drainage. That was going to solve the whole Eddington's problem. I'm kidding, of course. That's what they said. But I'm saying, yeah, there's a lot of water problems. We can't solve them all at once. The first stage was to get that Ogden Avenue where we get stuff draining down into an area that can take it. So that was the first phase. To do all curbing and all the drainage and that's another big job. It's millions of dollars. So, but to do it individually, Joe Polari, to your comments, we can go out there and see what we can do to fix these like Rosalie and Forest and those types of things.
I think that's a good move. We get started on it, we find out what's going on, and then we let the neighbors know what's going on, and we start moving in the right direction. And safety and security is the most important thing, and keeping the water flowing to the drain so we're not getting ice in the winter time and things of that nature. I think it would be great.
Yeah, and as you know, we are and have been addressing the problem in Eddington for a number of years, and we can continue to do that, whether it's off of Humeville Road with the drainage coming down from the golf course to the Cornwell's School, where we have the drain system going in there, to the Ogden Avenue. So we realize that is a problem, and we are addressing that in its totality, as well as individual streets, as we just brought up on Forest.
And we have a big drainage thing going on now down there from the golf course, going down, taking that water down and away and down a different area. That actually, I think that contract's been awarded.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making. Exactly. We are addressing it. So whatever news is brought to our council members, bring it to the mayor administratively, and we'll continue addressing those issues as they were brought up to us. Well, I'm going to move on, if I may. That concludes public comment portion. I'm going to go to other business, agenda item number 7. I'm going to start this time a little differently. I'm going to start with the mayor, and I'm going to ask the mayor to bring us on an update with the township and the coronavirus, what's been happening in Bensalem Township, where we are, where we intend to be in a short time. And then we'll hand it over, if you're finished, we'll hand it over to our Director of Public Safety, Fred Harron, to see what he's been doing, what we've been doing in the public safety part of it. Okay? Mr. Mayor, you'd be kind enough?
Okay, thanks, Mr. President. And certainly I'll let Fred bring updates on anything with the police department, EMS, and fire. But I'll just bring you up to date a little bit. We are looking at playgrounds being opened up. I can't give you the exact date. By tomorrow, I hopefully will. we're looking at the summer rec program, which right now is not looking promising. I'll bring you up to date as soon as we make a decision on that. We haven't done that yet. I think I told you the amphitheater is closed in June, and middle of June we'll make up our decision from there, where we're going. The township is working. Everybody is here every day. It's been working very well. People wearing their masks, with all of the people with keeping their distance, with the way the township's been set up, with the different barriers that we put up for different people in different areas. So on that, I really got to give a kudos to all of our employees that are following through with this and working in our building. Other than that, as far as the township's concerned, I think we're doing a great job. We talk about the summer rec program. The schools is a big part of that. The schools really don't want us going into schools with all the problems and that they're having, and they could have, with us using their facilities and cleaning them somehow on a daily basis. So we're working on that. We're trying to come to some conclusion. I'll let Fred even bring us up to date on the high school is graduating over at the casino, which be great. It works out with the screens and everybody be able to see that. Does anybody have anybody graduating from the high school? Anybody? Nobody? Well, anyway, that's coming up. That's on the 12th, right, Fred? 12th.
June 12th, yep.
Other than that, I want to keep council up to date on everything. There's since we've been working in here, there hasn't been a heck of a lot to talk about. We're having, getting people out like Quentin's crew and everything becomes a little tougher to get things done because they're out with the public and trying to get their things done. But otherwise, building and planning's busy. They're getting applications for permits and we're trying to do our due diligence. Believe it or not, swimming pools is big. Some people can't even get a delivery of a swimming pool, an above ground swimming pool, for a couple months, 6 weeks to 2 months waiting for a swimming pool. So I guess people are staying at home, enjoying their families, and that would be another amenity to them. Other than that, I'll hand it over to you, Fred, if you want to statistically give us something or bring us up to date on all the EMS people, fire and police.
Real quick, Mayor, I know Public Works or Building Planning, has been busy. How are we keeping them safe when they're going out and doing inspections and staying in contact with a lot of the
we're doing what we're supposed to do, distancing and face masks. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Fred?
And how are we, I just kind of want to add on that with workers in the township building, how are we enforcing or do you see any issues with compliance as far as the social distancing and wearing masks and so on?
Well, we haven't had anybody report anything or bring it up. People should be watching for themselves and letting us know if that's happening for their own protection and protecting everybody else. And they've been brought in and given all the rules. Every department was brought into the council chamber with distancing in there, seats, certain places, and given all of the rules and regulations that they have to comply by, or they can be disciplined. That's all been done, Jesse. That's serious stuff. Very serious.
No, I'm glad to hear. I just want to make sure that we're keeping our employees safe.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Fred?
Yes, Mayor, as you said, things are moving along. I've been reporting over the last 2 months, public safety still at full operation. We have not seen, or the public has not seen any difference in our operation and their response time. Obviously, there were some changes made to when police would get out to a scene, whether or not someone would be asked to come out of their house or not. But otherwise, that continues. Fire departments continue to operate. EMS continues to operate. We've been experiencing people here in Bensalem. Our latest numbers are about 235 active cases in Bensalem where people are COVID positive. We've had a total of about 29 deaths in Bensalem. but 19 of those are from assisted living facilities. So just like what we see at the national level and the state level and the county level, it is the same here in Bensalem, where a lot of these deaths are at assisted living facilities. That doesn't make it any less tragic. It's still very, very tragic, and we have to be mindful of the COVID and its capabilities of attacking people, because it is a silent disease. You don't realize that you have it. But police officers, anytime they're out of the car, are in full masks. Same thing with our EMS and our fire departments when permissible. Obviously, there are certain occasions when they can't get a mask on right away because of safety issues. But as soon as they can get a mask on, we make sure that they have a mask on. We're in the midst of setting the building up for whenever it gets opened up to the public for appointments only. Will be the next phase. As the mayor's reported, the workers are back, but the next phase will be opened up to the public by appointment only. They will not be just opened up for folks to walk in. People will have to wear a mask to come into the building, as well as having their temperature taken, and that's in the process of being set up as we speak. As far as crime, we've had a pretty good handle on it. We've had some increases in retail thefts from stores. Obviously, we think a lot of that is because some criminals think that they're not going to be arrested. That's what's happening in Philadelphia. That's not what's happening in Bucks County. If you commit a crime in Bucks County, you commit a crime in Bensalem, you're going to be arrested. Domestics have increased about 31%. So obviously, we're seeing a lot more domestics. Mental health calls have increased. Overdoses increased, but that's got nothing to do with COVID. Overdoses are increasing even before COVID. So we've never seen any decrease in overdoses. So that continues to decrease at about 14%. But we're dealing with it. We're moving along. We're making changes daily. What has to be done. As far as the high school graduation, as you know, as the mayor asked me to talk briefly, it is set for June 12th at 5 o'clock. We are working with the school district and parks daily to pull this off. It is going to be, we're definitely outside the box here with a non-traditional high school graduation, but we've been working with the school district for them to get the information out to the senior class as soon as possible on how it's going to be set up. And hopefully it'll be a uneventful, great event.
Is that it, Fred, Director?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll move on to our council members. I'm going to start with Councilman Polari, Vice President. Joe?
It's a shame that we didn't get the opportunity to give our veterans and pay homage to the ones that passed on, or especially in our police and fire. The memorial we have every year is always a fantastic event. I hope we can keep them all in our hearts and in our minds going forward. When you see our police officers and our veterans today, thank them for their service, tell them that you appreciated what they did. It's important, and especially when in times like this, it's very important. On the lighter side, it looks like my hockey is going to be opening up with playoffs. 26 teams are going to be in the playoffs. Flyers are going to get a first round bye because of where they finished if everything gets off, because Jersey approved them being able to go back to training over there. And Phillies baseball could be back in they're just not sure with that. So these are things that I think that all help the psyche of the people to have these things going on and keeping people entertained. I got to watch my first car race. I don't normally watch races, but
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that. It was something to do and a lot of fun. So Mayor, you and your staff are doing a fantastic job. Fred, your guys are doing a fantastic job. Let's keep an eye on their psyche too, because they're under a lot of pressure these days too.
The only problem I have with your report, Mr. Polari, is Debbie's here saying that it's her Flyers.
It's our Flyers.
There you go. All right, thanks. Now we'll go to Joe Knowles, Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Kisselback, thank you. Yeah, I would like to quickly congratulate the graduates coming up, and I hope that I think that's a tremendous job that the school district did, and Fred helping out there, setting up that apart, and Parks Casino being generous enough to use their screens. It'll be a special event for them, and I hope things go well for them. And all the graduates, whether they're 8th grade or high school or college, congratulations, and got a real bright future. I was sorry to miss the salute to Officer Armstrong and Officer Yezi, who are 2 police officers that lost their lives in Bensalem. And Memorial Day that
Think anybody remembers this?
just passed is actually for veterans who have given their lives for our country. So we certainly missed out a little bit. I got a call asking if there was going to be flags along Bristol Pike, and I said there's no parade. And I called my brother, who the VFW guys put the flags up, but there was no flags to put up. But people volunteering to do it last minute. But we missed the Memorial Day parade, but we still honored our veterans. And I appreciate the mayor and administration and my fellow council people and Fred Haran to being available to everybody and keeping the communication lines together. And we're moving forward, and we're going to be open up soon. So thanks a lot, and God bless, and stay safe.
Thank you, Joseph. We're going to go to Jesse Sloan, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Kisselback. I'd like to reiterate everyone's thoughts regarding the Missed Police Memorial, as well as our Memorial Day Parade, where we can honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. Our hearts definitely go out to those families that have been affected. While we couldn't attend, it was nice that the VFW even did a little service online. That was nice to tune into that. Remind everybody, next week on June 2nd is primary election day. The polls will be open. Hopefully, most people were able to take advantage of the vote by mail. If not, the polls will be open. And then as we move past that, just a couple days later, we'll be, hopefully moving into the yellow phase. And I would just urge everybody to remain cautious and adhere to all the guidelines that are being posted by the state, and the township will obviously, I would assume, post any necessary precautions on our website as well. And with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been out there on the front lines: first responders, healthcare workers, all of the essential businesses that have remained open, such as the grocery workers, pharmacies, and thank you to the teachers. This marks the end of a very bittersweet year as teachers begin to clean out, our kids' supplies from their classrooms, and we're slated to go pick those up next week. It's a very surreal time. It's very bittersweet, but as a parent, I can't thank the teachers and the school district enough for what they've done to make sure that our kids are getting a decent education in these crazy times. And so, thank you to them, and congratulations to all of the students that are graduating this year. High school, college, even in the lower grades. Truly trying times, and I'm happy to see so many people are succeeding and persevering through it. So thank you very much to everybody, and congratulations.
All right, thank you. Councilman Ed Turkmejian.
Thank you. I feel like I'm repeating what everybody else had said. I first wanted to recognize the service from our veterans and those that had paid the ultimate sacrifice. Again, we're still under a stay-at-home order, so I wanted to also mention again and thank our healthcare workers, police and fire, frontline workers, and even those that are working in our grocery stores and essential stores for being out there and doing what they have to do. I also wanted to take this opportunity to recognize our teachers here in the township. They really took on the challenge of virtual teaching and successfully adapting to continuing giving a top-notch education here in Bensalem. And I'm speaking for all the schools here in Bensalem.
It is.
Our teachers have really become more available than ever before, creating online teachings, hosting virtual Zoom sessions at night, and responding to students at all hours of the night. So a big thank you to our teachers. And on that note, I wanted to send out a big congratulations to our township high school students. And as you can see, I have a couple of the signs behind me recognizing them this year, including we have the Charter, Holy Ghost, Bensalem. They found themselves in a really unprecedented situation over the last few months. Our students have really accepted the challenges of virtual classes and online schooling. And for that, I give them a lot of credit for everything that they've accomplished over these last few months. So I wanted to say that we're all really proud of our graduating Bensalem seniors.
Okay, thank you, Edward.
Thank you.
We'll go to our additional guests. Russ, Banner, would you like to add anything this evening?
Yeah, just a couple things, follow up on the mayor's comments that we have a drainage project that's going to start construction in June. We have 2 additional drainage projects that are going to be going out for bidding in June. And then also just, we've been able to keep up with the permits there because of the township's IT department sending us remotely. I'll actually be in the township this Thursday. Quentin and I have worked out an arrangement so we can socially distance and be processing more permits. And last Friday, I think I did 20 permits. 6 of them must have been for pools. So there's a lot of pool activity.
A lot of pools, okay.
That's it.
Everybody will be doing winter pool activities, I guess, this year. Quentin, anything for you?
No, I don't have anything, sir.
Okay. Mr. Pizzo?
No, I think the horse has been beaten.
Okay, I agree with you. I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to say the same thing. The only, all our councilmen covered it very, very well. I will, as Jesse said, remind you that June 2nd is an election day, so you can get out there and vote, and it's a primary election, and there are important people on there with the delegates for the United States. That's probably the most important part, and get out there and vote. God bless you. We're going to end the meeting. All those in favor, say good night. Gracie, wherever you are.
Good night. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
God bless. God bless everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.